Welcome to Healing Horizons with Saima. Here we explore the transformative pieces between who we were and who we are becoming. Today I'm joined by our amazing and a life coach and homeschooling mom who helps others reconnect with their higher selves through aligned rituals. So we are diving into that raw and profound truth. Sometimes healing doesn't feel like becoming, it feels like unraveling. So Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Saima. Happy to be here.
Oh, you're warmly welcome. It's my pleasure all time to have you here. So, Samantha, like when healing starts to, strip away the layers of our old identity, it can feel terrifying. So, can you share that? How did you personally learn to find peace in that unraveling?
Yes. So, first, I would say that it's in the noticing of it. A lot of people tend to get panicky when something different is happening. And so, I like to think about it in a way where you're just simply starting to come into an awareness. When something changes in your life, you want to approach it differently because a lot of us just go through life so fast paced and we're not really consciously thinking of what's happening. We are just noticing all of a sudden I'm mad, all of a sudden I'm sad, and we're going through the motions, but we're not stopping and pausing to check in with our bodies and check in with our emotions and check in with ourselves and say, okay, what's happening here? Why this shift in energy? What's happening for me? And when we take a look at it and we start to view it as an observer perspective, we can then challenge ourselves, not in a stressful way, but in a more gentle, lighthearted approach where we can actually have some clarity and some answers as to what's happening here for me that I need to see. Um, Something is shifting in me. The energy I feel is different. I'm going through something. And I think that's the key, right? Is saying to yourself in some kind of awareness, like, okay, I think I am going through something. And then giving yourself some grace with it and allowing yourself some ease and some knowing that this is a moment to slow down and take a look at what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Samantha, firstly. And the way you describe finding peace in the midst of everything falling apart is really grounding. I must say, it's such an honest reminder that healing isn't always about becoming someone new. It's often about reminding who we have always been underneath the layers. I feel, and I think so many people will relate to that sense of both fear and freedom in the process. But I'm curious that did you ever find yourself resisting that transformation at times, maybe wanting to hold on to parts of your old self that felt familiar or safe.
Absolutely. And I'll explain exactly. There are so many moments. It's hard to even pinpoint just one. So I'll kind of generalize it. But this will resonate with every human on the planet because it happens to all of us and it's inescapable. So, what happens is those moments of resistance come in where you are having self growth. And that's really what it comes from. It's us having inner wisdom or emotional maturity, or we're growing our emotional intelligence. And when we're having this type of personal development happen for us, it's actually a beautiful unfolding that feels very uncomfortable in the moment. It could feel uncomfortable in your body and uncomfortable in your thoughts. Very like awkward feeling, I would say, and you just can't seem to get your footing. You're kind of out of a groove and you don't feel like you have your mojo. That's the feeling of it. But on the outside, the external, what's happening is you're starting to really think about, should I be friends with this person anymore? Should I be so close with this person that maybe I've been friends with for a really long time? you start to look at your relationships differently. You start to view your jobs differently, your career path, your choices, your home life. All these things are, and it's usually just one thing at a time, of course, but I'm just describing that this can happen in every single category of your life because at some point, all these pieces surface where it's like a spotlight and it's highlighted where all of a sudden you're saying, "Huh, wait a minute. Something is this. I don't feel the same. I don't feel like I used to feel." And that's the whole idea about this is something in you sparks that conversation with yourself. And it starts with the noticing of you literally saying, this is a way that I used to be that I don't know if I agree with anymore. I don't know if I align with this part of me anymore. And this, in essence, is really not just growth, but it's you leaving an old version of yourself because you're being led into a new version of your.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I really like, Samantha, how you brought it back to our inner wisdom, that deeper knowing that, guides us when even when everything feels uncertain or awkward at first, like you said. And yes, you're so right. It's like once we start honoring that part of ourselves, the shifts naturally ripple into every area of life, like you explained, relationship, choices, and even the way we see the world. And the way you explain that makes the process feel a lot more compassionate and empowering rather than something to fear. And that's such a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you for bringing up fear. That is such an integral part to it, right? Because the fear is what is it, and we don't want to stay in resistance. We want to feel through it and ask ourselves questions without um like bringing ourselves down into a muddy pit of it where we feel heavy. 'Cause we just tend to do that naturally. It's like the why is this happening to me? And if you get into a victim mindset, then that really overpowers and overshadows what should be the opposite. I see all these things as opportunities for growth. So if you flip the switch on that and you turn it around into a lighthearted moment where you know that even though it feels heavy or like you're in dark or murky waters, that it's actually a mindset. You just need to know that it's okay to be going through something. And once you start to grasp that concept, everything else starts to lighten up a little bit, and you'll at least have a light at the end of the tunnel getting through this.
Absolutely. That's so relatable. Now, we talk a lot about connecting with one's higher self. So, like, what does that connection look like when, like, we are in the thick of chaos or loss?
So, we really want to think about higher self as much as we can. I would love for more people to grasp on to this concept because it's more than a concept, it's a reality. And higher self is not a destination, it's a place that we can reach at any time. Literally in 2 seconds. If I said before we did this podcast together today, and I said, spirit team or whoever I want to talk to. That's just what I say. But if I spoke out loud and I said out loud, I said, please align my energy into my highest self. Please allow myself to have clarity in my speaking and show that I have intelligence in this area that I'm capable of speaking on, or whatever your words want to be. But it's basically taking a moment, and that was just one example of a million. Just insert this idea into any aspect of your life. It's basically aligning yourself with higher energy It's like reaching your higher potential or a higher timeline, a higher version of yourself. And at the end of this, it's really energy because everything is energy. So let's say another example, really quick. I'm in a bad mood and I'm going to the grocery store and I see a friend of mine and I don't really want to see her because I'm just in a mode where I want to get in and get out. But
Mhm.
then I realize she looks kind of sad. So I can have the um, idea of just making sure my energy is raised so I can help her, a friend, raise her energy. Sometimes simply just being in the company of someone else with their raised energy can raise their own. That's on a subconscious level. And we do these things all the time subconsciously. We can either bring someone down or we can bring someone up. So there's two ways to think of this. It's for yourself, of course, first and foremost, because like the old adage or saying that, if you're in an emergency on an airplane, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help another person, right? So that is kind of the thought about life. You have to take care of yourself first. So you have to try to align with your higher self and be in a state of love and a state of light frequency as much as possible for yourself first. And then others around you will feel that as well.
Absolutely. And the way you describe staying connected to our higher self in the, like you describe in the middle of chaos, really paints a vivid picture of trust and surrender. And it's really an empowering reminder that even when everything feels uncertain, there's still a part of us that's grounded, wise, and steady beneath it all. And it really makes me wonder, like, do you think sometimes that very higher self is actually the one creating the chaos? Like, almost like it's intentionally guiding us through those disruptions to spark the transformation we need.
Certainly, it could. I mean, here's the thing. I look at everything as a life lesson. Everything. I'll have a friend tell me the most detrimental thing, and, it might make me look bad as a friend, um, but I just know because I always have good intention that everything really is a lesson. That's why we're here. We're in earth school. We're constantly learning. And the point is to get ourselves out of the negative thought process and all the doubt and fear and guilt and shame and all these things so that we can see what the message is, because there's always a message for us out of any issue or challenge or struggle that we face through the growth that seems uncomfortable in the moment. But once we put the uncomfortability to the side and we look at it like it's business. It's kind of like it's a thing that people have a hard time doing. Um, I I got good at this myself in business because I had to. I worked with sharks. When I worked in the corporate world, I had to put my game face on. You put your emotions aside, you roll up your sleeves, and you look at, the facts in front of you and what you're working with. Um, there are times for emotion, and certainly we don't want to dismiss or bypass emotion, but we do need to recognize when we can um, have ourselves be led by emotional catastrophe, which happens so much. We're just swimming in it. And that means that we need to lighten up a little bit and understand that, emotions are running rampant and thereby creating an external world that is mirroring mirroring all the negativity, or we can create our world by understanding that emotions should be felt, but then also we need to be the observer, seeing from a perspective where we're looking at the problem itself, not muddied up through the lens of our emotions, because then we're not going to have clarity. So it's all about like a plug and play, and you need to really get to know yourself very well and to be able to see as clearly as you can and have good views of what's going on, like a like a bird in the sky. You're floating through looking down at yourself. And that's why I keep saying the word observer, because that's kind of how you want to live it. So you're not constantly in your mind all the time. And that's why people suffer so much is they get so caught up with the wheels spinning in their mind, they can't even get out of that. So if you do the aforementioned and you remove emotion enough just to at least have a glimpse into what you're facing, that will help you. And then, of course, and again, feel through the emotions too when it's appropriate.
Yes, seeing everything as a life lesson really shifts how we relate to challenges. Instead of feeling like chaos is something happening to us, it becomes something happening for us as an invitation to grow and expand. And I really like how you frame that continuous learning as part of a human experience because it takes pressure off of getting right and reminds us that we are always evolving and always being guided to a deeper understanding. And that's such a grounded perspective, Samantha.
Thank you.
hmm Now, like, is it possible, that like you have, first of all, you have such a diverse career journey from floristry to consulting to teaching. So, can you share that how have these experiences, shaped your view of healing and identity?
Sure. So, through all these jobs that I've had, because I think I've had more jobs than anyone I know. And at almost 50 years old, it's such an interesting thing that I still am carrying this. It's not necessarily a trophy. It's just, it's kind of comical that I've had so many jobs in my life. But I've gone through this with, at first, it seems like it was ego death, where, I had structure around stories of who I was being in those roles. Whatever character I was playing, let's say, in the position of whatever job it was at the time. And I would outgrow things. And as soon as I learned, okay, I this is as far as I can take this role, I was always seeking more. And it wasn't a case of the grass is greener somewhere else. It was a case of a true personal development, self-growth perspective where I was really looking at, okay, I don't think there's any more takeaway for me here. So eventually I would just outgrow positions and I would always be looking to something else to fuel my thirst for or quench my thirst rather of knowledge because I just have this insatiable thirst for knowledge. And so job after job, not being fired or anything like that, just it was my always in my own timing and my own decision that I went from one job to another. But within all of that and all those years and decades of this path that I chose in switching it up, I learned so much about my self identity and I constantly realigned myself and which is basically just a lot of shifting my self concept and creating space for new, where at some point maybe I felt a little bit like there was a void depending on what the job was. I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of jobs that I was like, okay, I can succeed in this, but this isn't aligned with my soul. This isn't my passion. So, the reason that I had so many jobs was really because I was such a soul searcher for myself, and It was through my own, um, inner challenge that, it wasn't even, really so much about the jobs itself. It was more like this, like I say, it was like a self challenge. It was like an obstacle course that only I knew that I wanted to outperform or outrun, and it wasn't in competition ever of anyone but myself, and that is how extreme, I guess, I am, for lack of a better word, at my own self-growth evolution. This is just how passionate I am. I've been doing this for so long to myself and for myself. I've been running this game where it's just an ongoing thing. And the category of jobs was just one aspect of my life that I ran with all this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's like so beautiful to hear that how each phase of your journey has added another layer to your understanding of feeling and identity, I must say. And the way you have allowed your past experiences to flow in your present work really highlights how transformation isn't about starting over, it's about integrating every version of ourselves along the way. And I imagine that insight plays a big role in how you support others. So, how do you guide clients who are in that in between space, like where they have let go of their old lives but have quite met their new selves yet?
So you definitely want to support yourself through your challenges for sure. And I would say the first thing would be to honor the grief. We don't want to dismiss or bypass the feelings that we have, the emotions that are present, and they are always a gift. I may have said a lot about emotions earlier, how we want to kind of, put them to the side and have a view of what's going on. And that is part of it. But in this moment that we're talking about, you have to get through the emotions of trying to bring yourself some clarity and get through it. So, this is something that you cannot get away from and you cannot escape. You don't get through something until you visit the emotion behind the grief. And that's really what it is. It's like a sacred death and a rebirth cycle. And you have to let yourself mourn the old you. Along with that, I guide my clients in grounding practices, daily things that help remind their nervous system that they're safe and that they are okay to transfer their energies and align themselves into different areas. And because it does get very scary for people when they're approaching something new, when you're saying goodbye to a friend, when you are saying goodbye to a job, when you're saying goodbye to a relationship or a home, um, or something in your life that feels like a death, then it is really important to, again, honor the grief, ground yourself, and affirm the new. Very highly regarded thing to do. You have to speak words that align with your higher self. Like, I am becoming who I was always meant to be. And something like that will actually ground the thoughts, the actions, and the energy into alignment of these newfound choices and your way of living.
That's I really like firstly that how you emphasize honoring the grief first because like so often people want to rush through that space of loss or uncertainty, but the way you describe guiding like clients to consciously redirect the energy and realign with new parts of themselves feels so gentle and empowering. It really reminds us that healing isn't about feeling the void right away. It's to like to allow space for what's leaving and trusting that something meaningful will take its place when we are ready. And that's such a compassionate approach, Samantha.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because it feels like loss in that moment, but it's actually a creation of space for your new truth that you've aligned with to bloom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, can you share like one gentle practice listeners can start with to feel anchored again?
Yes. I would just quickly say to use an affirmation, like I said, if I can remember what I said, um, about speaking words that align with your higher self, because your higher self is the place that you are being taken. It's the new space. And so to leave yourself from the uncomfortability and lead yourself into a exciting new discovery of self, you want to say something like, I am becoming who I was always meant to be. And you can use that, or you can use any different kind of affirmation. I like to do affirmations every single morning, but I also like to do special ones for special events, such as something like this, where you're supporting yourself through, um, you know, a new in your life, a new version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, Samantha. And I really love how you tie affirmations to self discovery. It's such a simple yet powerful way to stay open and grounded while, stepping into new parts of ourselves. And this was really a deep and resonant conversation with you, Samantha. Thank you for showing us that losing who we were is often the beginning of remembering who we truly are. And for everyone listening out there, if your healing feels like falling apart, trust that you're actually falling into alignment. So keep listening, keep awakening, and keep walking your horizon of healing.